You're gone and I gotta stay.
Why Jeremy Clarkson hosting Who Wants to Be a Millionaire was TV gold. I hate to say I told you so, not least because I didn't, but yes, hiring Jeremy Clarkson to host the 20th anniversary specials of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire turned out to be a stroke of genius. That, or a very lucky fluke. Either way, my point is he was brilliant at it. And before I give you my reasons why, should you happen to care, let me just respond to those people whose cries of sheer horror, "He's praising that dreadful man. Oh, how could he?" Exclamation mark blah blah, and I can already hear ringing out across Britain. My response to those people? Shut up. I like Jeremy Clarkson. I think he's clever and funny. So yes, shut up and bore off. Either way round, I'm not fussed. Right, now that I've dealt with that little quibble so eloquently, here's my explanation as to why I think Jeremy Clarkson was such a great choice. It boils down, I'd argue, to two key factors. First, he's not a quiz show host. And second, he's Jeremy Clarkson. Clear now? Didn't think so. What I mean is that, by not being a recognized quiz show host, Clarkson didn't just slip into the standard quiz show presenter's autopilot mode. It's amazing how many people do. He played it instead like a bloke who couldn't quite believe his luck, a bloke who was clearly a great fan of the show, who at times was like a kid in a sweet shop, but who, even so, didn't mind poking fun at it, at the dramatic music, at the need for ad breaks, which, of course, was completely unfamiliar to him, at the tweaks to the format, particularly the one that made Ask the Host the new, fourth lifeline, and, most important of all, at the contestants. Related videos. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire contestant shocks audience. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire contestant shocks Jeremy Clarkson and the audience. He says he knew what lock the ruins of Urquhart Castle stood on because he lost his leg there. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire player flatlined 5 times. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire contestant reveals he had an accident which led him to flatline 5 times. Doctors said he had a 2% chance of living, but he says he beat the odds. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Clarkson suffers major blunder. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Host Jeremy Clarkson suffers a major blunder after telling the contestant that got the question right, when it actually failed, and lost £15,000. Yes, plenty of quiz show presenters, I know, have done the "let's be rude to the contestants" thing, Jeremy Paxman and Anne Robinson being the examples that most immediately spring to mind. but Clarkson did it in his own special way. He wasn't rude in a sneeringly superior way, as Paxman is on University Challenge. And he wasn't rude in a silly panto villainy, rude for no actual reason way, as Robinson was on The Weakest Link. He was rude in a simple, honest, Jeremy Clarkson way. Which brings us neatly on to factor 2 in his success. Just being himself. Had he not been the Jeremy Clarkson we know and love, yes, love, you bleeding Clarkson haters, love, it would have felt weird. We expect him to poke fun. And on a show where an awful lot of people ended up performing, let's face it, a tiny bit pathetically, what else would we have wanted him to do but tell them so to their faces? Which he did. A lot. And rightly so. But being rude in a Jeremy Clarkson way was fine, because it was funny and cheeky, never cruel. He teased like you'd tease a close pal, like he himself would tease Richard Hammond or James May. A teasing that stems from the fact that you actually care. Early on, one contestant, a guy from Cornwall whose name escapes me, and, no, of course I can't be bothered to look it up, began teasing Clarkson back, and quite brilliantly. It was lovely telly. Not award-winning, just fun to watch. It put a smile on my face. Sometimes that's all television needs to do. And when, just occasionally, a contestant ended up doing rather well, Clarkson's response was telling because, unless I'm extremely gullible, he really, really cared. He got genuinely, fantastically excited for them. More than Tarrant used to? I think perhaps yes. So will there be more? I'd like to think so. I loved it. But at the same time, maybe there shouldn't be, at least not with Clarkson in the seat. Why? Well, because maybe half the fun was the fact that he wasn't doing this as a proper new full-time job. It meant he could do the teasing, the irreverence, and not really give two hoots about what people thought. A bit like a guy who, to his surprise and delight, has been temporarily handed the keys to a top-of-the-range car, having a whole load of fun with it, relishing the freedom but without the crushing burden of responsibility. Enjoying it all the more because it's not really his and he'll soon have to hand it back. If he does get asked to host more episodes of Millionaire, I only hope he continues to play it the way he did throughout these 20th anniversary specials. The authentic Jeremy Clarkson way. And then, When the time comes that he wants to quit, he could, I dunno, maybe biff one of the production team on the nose and vacate the seat for Joey from Friends. Read Mike Ward's TV previews every day in your Daily Star. Follow him on Twitter at @MikeWardove and subscribe to his and Simon Hoban's weekly TV podcast at www.tally.click.